I made this box for someone special in my life, and what I'm sharing here is how I designed and made it as I went along, starting with just an initial idea for a cutaway shape in plywood. Now if you're watching this, you're probably an enlightened woodworker looking beyond the popular but misguided belief that plywood edges should always be covered up. There's no rationality to this practice, as plywood is both expensive and beautiful. Now, the way to design is to use straightforward processes and construction methods using tools and materials the way they want to be used. Why make everything unnecessarily difficult? Simplicity of construction and functionality of the design in both practicality and visuals is the aim. So, having decided to use a cutaway shape, I hadn't yet figured out how I would contain or enclose the box, such as what kind of lid would I make. When I'm designing, I often let an initial concept just evolve as I'm making it. Now I broke the blade on my small bandsaw, so I switched to using my large bandsaw, which has a bigger blade. I use this technique to get the blade to follow the line. I always use a biro. It makes a clearer line than a pencil. Okay, so it's a nice slightly loose fit, and I'm now going to replace the bit I cut out. Always keep your fingers clear of the blade. Now I've been using plywood since the 1970s, and what was then Douglas fir plywood. Nowadays my favourite is Brazilian pine plywood. Quite similar in looks, and I love the stout laminates, and it's soft enough to fashion. It's one of my favourite materials. Now I'm using a tight bond fast setting glue. It needs just 15 minutes under pressure, so I left it for about an hour before doing further work. This small drum sander is one of my most useful machines. It saves so much time to achieve perfect accuracy. So I'm using a linear sander to get the edges flat and square, and then I use a tiny bobbin sander to smooth the inner surfaces. If you take your time bandsawing to the line, you save time when sanding. Always soften the edges. Never leave a really sharp edge on your woodworking project. Okay, so that's the open container completed. It's an object of beauty in itself. So how will I make the lid? Well, obviously I want to feature the end grain of the plywood, so I played around with some glued up pieces. Let's consider a sliding lid action. Will the lid need guiding or tracking? Now this could get complicated, as it could involve a router, and I want to keep this design as simple as possible, just using flat pieces all butted and glued together with no joints as such. So I haven't yet resolved the tracking to keep the lid in position. You'll have to wait to see my simple solution at the end of the video. Now I'm gluing and clamping the box in the vise and leaving it for about an hour. Now for some final sanding of surfaces to true everything up and get a nice fit. It's so much quicker using a power sander. And I bevel every edge very slightly, ready for a final hand sanding. I'm finishing with a matte, clear polyurethane varnish. It makes a very good base coat. I'm using a soft paper towel wrapped round a stick as I couldn't find a brush. And then I can spray a few coats of matte acrylic clear lacquer and sanding with a very fine abrasive paper for the final top coat. Okay, so I did this while I was awaiting delivery of some 4mm acrylic rod, which is my solution to the tracking of the lid. I could use a router, but my milling machine is so much quicker to set up. The two holes have to be precisely positioned and very carefully drilled in between two laminates of different density. You know, the drill will want to wander. Well, does the lid locating method work? Yes, it does, with just enough play to allow for subsequent timber movement. Job done. Well, thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe, as I hope to share some more videos about the ultimate satisfaction in woodworking, designing what you make, making what you design. Have fun and be safe.